My dudes, today is an exciting day. Today is a monumental day because I finally get to upgrade and actually upgrade my 2012 Mazdaspeed 3. What is going on, my dudes? James here, and we are going to be doing some upgrades on Blue Lightning, my Mazdaspeed 3. I'm so excited. I found this guy on the internet. Anyways, he had a 2012 Speed 3 that he had done a whole lot of stuff to and blown up the motor. And he decided that it wasn't worth it to rebuild, and he ended up going with a different car build after that. And so he's parting it out. And luckily enough, I came across his ad. And so we got a box of goodies to go through today and start working on some of these to install. And the rear motor mount is from COBB. So obviously they are used. It is not the prettiest looking thing, but I will say that this bushing is in fantastic shape. There's no cracks, there's no tears, there's no like serious wear to it, just a little bit of dust and grime from being underneath the car for who knows how many miles. All right, no longer need that. So yeah, today we're going to be installing the COBB rear motor mount. It's not difficult. It does require you to get underneath the car, and but it's only like 3 bolts, or maybe it's 4. I don't know, but I'm really excited. So I don't really know what to expect. It should not be difficult. There's really only a couple of parts to it. So I'm gonna get the car jacked up from the front. I'll get a couple of jack stands up underneath the frame on the front, and you only need to get it up just enough so that you can get a little bit of leverage in there. I'm probably gonna need a breaker bar because these are the factory mounts and they are on there. I'll get the sizes for all the bolts that we're gonna need once we get down there too. But yeah, so I'm super excited about this. This is gonna be a lot of fun. So I'm not gonna bother doing any sort of like test drive with the factory mounts or anything like that. I've been driving on them for a year. And I've got 97,000 miles on this car, so they're old and they're worn. I don't know what to expect for how this is going to make the car feel or how the shifting is going to feel or anything like that. So at the end of this video, there is going to be a little drive around. I'll have the GoPro set up so you can see like my reaction on first startup and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll go for a drive. And I will be doing that after each motor mount. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the car jacked up and see what type of bolts we're looking at pulling out. Got the car jacked up, we're going to go ahead and take a look under the hood, so to speak, even though we're not going to open the hood at all. I'm pretty sure we're going to need some sort of a crescent wrench, because I think one of the bolts has a nut on the back that you have to hold in place. The new COBB mount looks like it's fully captured, so I don't think we have to worry about that too much. It's a good idea to just kind of like look around when you're down here. Just take a peek, see if anything looks off weird or strange. It's like 19 and 17 millimeter. Of course I don't have a crescent wrench that's a 19 millimeter. Why would I? It's really tight in here, especially with a camera that has a microphone on top. But so the front of the car is that way. So that is the back over there. And if we look, here's the engine right here. Here's the oil pan, which is on the passenger side of the car. And then if you go straight back, this is the engine like mount, engine side mount, whatever you want to call it. And then that right there is the mount we're going to be replacing. Okay, so we're going to have to loosen all 3 of these bolts. All 3 of them are 19 millimeter. So we're going to have to loosen all of them. And we're gonna have to loosen and remove this bolt right here, which is a 17 on the one side, and then the side that you have to get a wrench on is a 19 which I'm just going to use an all 16ths or an adjustable crescent wrench for those of you that don't know. And then also this one right here is also 17. So it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts that we're loosening, and then we're removing all except for, I want to say probably this one. I don't know, one of these you don't really have to remove. You just need to be able to wiggle it enough to be able to pull this mount out of the way. Man, look how rusty this subframe is. That's disgusting. That. Yeah. The bushing's a little cracked. It'll be alright. Ew. Man, I really want to take off this entire subframe and clean it up. Do a little side-by-side comparison here, shall we? So, don't mind the rust. Here is the old motor mount, and it's disgusting. Wow. And also, look at that. I can push and move it by hand. You can see, hopefully, the lines where all the dirt and stuff on the rubber has been pushed away from it flexing under the weight of the engine. I guess that's something I could have done. Whenever I rev the engine with this old mount in, it moves a lot. So I'm hoping that'll be fixed with this new one, because there's the new one and there's the old one. Pretty big difference. We're going to go ahead and get this new one in. I will say, though, that the COBB mount has a hex bit, or like a Allen key, and I don't know where my Allen keys are. So I got to go find those, and I'll be back. So it would appear that the new COBB mount bolt is a 10 millimeter. Ooh, something else I want to get. I'm going to get some thread locker, some red Loctite, just in case. So I'm just going to throw the red Loctite on here before we torque them down. So, per the Mazda manual, when I put these bolts on and I torque them down, I need to torque them down in a certain order, so that little silver metal mount that the rear motor mount attaches to, you start with those 3 bolts, and you torque those down to, it says 54 to 66 foot-pounds, so I'll probably just go 60 foot-pounds for those 3. And then you bolt down the one that goes into the cross member, and that one is 70 to 85 foot-pounds, so I'll probably just do 80. And then you do that last one, which is the one between the 2 mounts, and that one is the same, 70 to 85, so I'll just do 80. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bolted in and torqued down, and I will see you when I get done with that. So full disclosure, my dudes, I'm going to put you up here. I didn't get a torque wrench in there. Technically, I did get a torque wrench in there, but it didn't do anything because my torque wrench is cheap. Ooh, you're gonna fall. My torque wrench is very cheap, and the degree of like operation, like when it clicks, how far it'll go, is kind of garbage. So I legitimately could not get it to click. It's like I could get the wrench on there, and then you know how you're like adjusting it to tighten, and it's a ratcheting, so it clicks as you go to the next tooth inside of the ratchet. Well, it was such a small space to move it, and the torque wrench is so long that I could not get it to click at all. I tried raising the car even more, it didn't work, so I just put my, magic wand, the breaker bar on it, and I gave it about 80 foot-pounds torque. My calibrated arm, you know what I'm saying? Which is totally not okay, but you know what? It'll be fine. Oh man. Alrighty. We have the rear motor mount in from COBB, which is supposedly quite the upgrade from stock. So we're gonna go ahead and start the car, see how it feels. I don't know what to expect. and I'm really excited. But let's see. All right. I might be feeling more vibration from the car than I did before. I think I am. That could be a placebo though. I say we need to go for a drive. I do feel... I feel less shake. Like before, whenever I would press the gas, I would feel a shudder on the car, which was very apparent under the hood because you could see the engine flex. I'm kind of... Whoa. Okay, that is much more pronounced. If I dump the clutch, not like dump it, but sometimes I don't get it just right when I let it out, so it doesn't get as much of a feather and it's a much harder connection. That was a much louder reaction to that than what it's been before. I definitely notice a little bit of a difference. Like I said, I think there's a little bit more vibration, and which it should be. There should be more vibration at idle because the engine mount is stiffer than what the factory one is. As you saw, I could bend the factory one. This COBB mount, there's no bending that. Also, I think the COBB mount is polyurethane as opposed to the original mount being made out of some form of regular, just like rubber type of thing. Oh man. Well, okay, I like this. I like this a lot. When you start like really hammering on it and you get a little bit more aggressive with the shifts, it's definitely smoother and wow. Awesome. Oh, this is sick. I'm so excited. Obviously, this is a really easy install. It probably took me about an hour, but that's because I'm filming at the same time, so I'm like trying to move the camera around, and I didn't have all my tools out or all that sort of stuff. So you guys, if you're watching this video alongside installing your own rear motor mount for your Mazdaspeed 3, hopefully you watch it to the end so that you can be like, these are all the tools I need, and you have them all out, and don't be like me. But even though it took me about an hour, it probably really only took, like, total work, maybe 20 minutes. And the worst part was trying to get that stupid torque wrench in there. But, yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, then please come back. I love doing upgrade stuff. I am a YouTube certified master auto technician. I don't know what I'm doing. All of this is just on a whim, Googling and looking at owner's manuals and factory manuals and that kind of stuff to try to see kind of what's right. But my Mazda is the introduction. Holy crap, that was smooth. Okay, this mount is amazing. Anyways, yeah, so I'm just some dude in my garage that is upgrading a car. It's my first ever manual that I've never had one before. I've never driven manual before I bought this car. So this is going to be a journey for me. I am doing stage tunes from COBB. So a lot of you are like, boo, don't do stages, go to an actual tuner. Well, I don't have thousands of dollars to spend all the time. And the thousands that I do want to spend are going to be on things like a new exhaust. So I'm going to follow the COBB tuning off-the-shelf tunes on my access port. And the cool thing is now that I have the rear motor mount in, I can go with a stage 1 tune. Super fun and easy to do, swapping the rear motor mount. And I'm really excited. That felt amazing. So I'm going to keep cracking on this. I'm going to start working on probably the passenger motor mount next, because that one's a little bit easier than the transmission mount. And then, yeah. So the passenger motor mount, you can see it right there, is kind of in a funky spot because the coolant reservoir is sitting right here. According to Mazda, I have a coolant leak in my EGR system. I believe them. Also, that just means I need to do an EGR delete because fuck emissions. Anyway, so we got to get this taken out. So you've got a couple little plastic tabs in here to be able to remove. There's one there, and then there's one somewhere else, or maybe it's just the one. I don't know. But either way, once we get the tab off, we can just kind of take this and move it up and over this way, being mindful of your coolant hose here, and of course the overflows right there. And that should give us plenty of clearance to get in there. I have here the Damond Motorsports passenger motor mount. and it's really exciting. It looks really good. It's the gold with the black. They have a gold metal mount. They also have a red one, and then maybe a black one. But then for the rubber, they do black or red. And I wanted the gold with the black, either that or the solid black, but preferably the gold, just because it's a little hint. And I feel like accents of gold kind of throughout is going to be really, really dope with the blue kind of theme that I'm going for the car. I'm going to figure out how to take this off. Like I said, I think you can just get a little flathead in here and pull this plastic out a little bit so that you can then slide this whole reservoir up. I'm pretty sure, oh yeah, there's the other one right back in there, if you can see that. So I'm going to fumble with this for a minute, and then I'll show you what it looks like under it. It really wasn't too bad to get the, all right, cool, that's a 10. It wasn't too bad to get the screwdriver in there. I will say, start with the back one, and just kind of like jam it between the tab, and so the cab side of the tab and this plastic right here. And then this front one just kind of slides off on its own. So that's the only one that's actually like truly pinched in there, and you can just kind of wiggle it until it comes out. But yeah, it's not gonna, you gotta be really careful so these hoses don't pop off and leak coolant everywhere, especially when it's hot like it is right now. But yeah, so there is the passenger motor mount. And I will tell you that every single one of these bolts is a 17 millimeter. So 1, 2, one here is 3, one here is 4. With the exception of this little ground right here, which is a 10 millimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and get this unbolted. Like I said, I don't think you need to support the motor from underneath, but I'm going to anyways, just because. And then I will get the old one pulled off, and then we'll do a quick side-by-side comparison so that you can see how the new one looks right next to it. So y'all remember when I was asking whether or not you needed to actually lift the engine in order to remove this mount? The answer is yes, you do. Because all the weight's dropping down on that one side. So the mount was still stiff after I loosened it up, and I thought that was weird until I jacked it up a little bit more, and then it lifted all the rest of that weight off. Now that the mount is out, I'm going to go ahead and get in here and just kind of like clean it up a little bit. I still have no idea what this grounding strap is for, so I'm going to need to Google that, but it's not going anywhere except to the frame and to the motor mount. So maybe Mazda had an issue before with like generating an electric charge because of all the torque that you're getting out of this 250 horsepower engine. I don't freaking know. But man, this new motor mount looks way better. So there's the old one. It's a motor mount. Kind of worse to wear though. It's that really crappy, you know, unpainted metal look. The bushings and all that, whatever you call this, the mount itself, the rubber is cracking and falling apart. And it just looks generically disgusting. And the oil that's on the outside of this, I don't know if that's from the mount itself. When the mounts get old, apparently sometimes they can melt and kind of leak. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's fine because we're having fun. This one though looks a hell of a lot better, and it is made out of polyurethane, so it should hold up much better than this one is, or this one did, and it's going to be pretty stiff. This one also has almost 100,000 miles on it, so I'm very surprised that it looks as good as it does for 100,000 miles. I'm going to go ahead and get the base plate cleaned up a little bit, and then we'll get the new motor mount thrown in, and then I got to figure out what that grounding strap is really for. I will say that the ground wire allegedly is supposed to attach to this passenger motor mount. I don't have any way to do that. And looking at the Damond Motorsports like install video on YouTube, it looks like a different mount. So I don't know if they had, maybe this is like an upgraded mount, because their YouTube video came out in like 2000, I don't know, it says 9 years ago. So what is that, 2015? So it's very well just might be a new mount. I will say, though, that that ground strap is only connected to the mount and then the frame underneath it. There's nothing else specifically connecting it. So it might be something... I assume it's just grounding the metal of the mount itself, since it's insulated from the polyurethane bushing. And it, you know, static electricity builds up due to friction. It's probably why it was there. And I'm sure through testing or whatever, they've determined that they don't need it. Anyways, I'm going to take it out because I have no way to put it in. Also, in my researching of that, I found out that the factory passenger motor mount has hydraulic oil inside of it, and that's why it looks a little oily, because it's old and it's been leaking. So this should make a huge difference on the feeling of doing the things. All right, I'm gonna get these bolts in, and shit, I gotta look up what the torque specs are. So Google says that the torque spec for the passenger side motor mount on this car, specifically the 17 millimeter bolts, which is all of them, are 56 to 76 foot-pounds, so I'm going to go to, say, 65. And it says there's 19 millimeters, but I don't believe it. But we have that torqued down to spec. We can go ahead and release the jack now. And we shouldn't see any motion out of the engine, which is great. Ooh, that handle is warm from sitting in the sun. All right. I suppose all that's left now is to go for a drive. You have everything boxed up. Oh no, my mount came off. Here we go. First start up with the passenger motor mount from Damond Motorsports installed. Oh, there is some vibration coming from that side now. Wow. I know you can feel that, because you are vibrating a lot right now. Interesting. I knew getting the motor mounts that I did that was going to make more vibrations in the car. That's just, wow. It's not bad. It's just interesting. I wasn't expecting it to be, I don't know, I guess that noticeable. Cool. All right, let's go for a drive. Oh my God, you can feel that. It just feels like a race car. All right, the vibrations I feel like are gonna get annoying, but I do like it a lot right now. So maybe on a long road trip it'll kind of suck, but here we go. Oh man, that's so weird. It's cool though. Oh yeah, you can feel the engine a lot more now. That feels good. The vibrations go away whenever you're like not at around 1,000 RPM. Like it's still there, but it's not as violent. I shouldn't say violent. It's not violent. It's not bad. It's just more feedback from the engine than you have with the standard passenger motor mount. I am curious to see if the shifts get any better, because the passenger motor mount, oh man, I like that. The passenger motor mount is supposed to minimize a lot of that twisting motion from the engine, because the rear motor mount prevents this motion and then the passenger prevents this motion, and it's supposed to help with your shifting. Oh, and I think it does. Oh, that was smooth. Oh my God, that's so buttery smooth. Wow. Whoa. Okay, that's fantastic. All right, that is not a placebo. With the rear motor mount, I was kind of curious if I was feeling a difference, or if I was telling myself I was feeling a difference. It was one of those, like, you don't really notice a whole lot. But wow, that is so much smoother on the shift. Do a quick, wow. We're gonna do a quick pull. Sorry, I am blown away by how good that feels. Wow. This is amazing. Oh, that's so exciting. It feels just smooth. It's buttery. It's clean. There's none of that jerkiness, none of that like smack of the like pressure plates within the transmission, not the transmission, the clutch plates. You know, I am new to driving a manual. I've only been driving this car for a little under a year, and it's just sometimes, like that right there, I had a pretty big jerk because I didn't have the I wasn't really rev matched, and I let the clutch out a little bit further than I probably should have initially until it starts to grab. But with the passenger motor mount, the stock one, that would have made a kind of a slam feel, and that was not a slam at all. That was just, you know, a slight jerk because I wasn't as perfectly matched with RPM as I probably should have been. Well, you don't need me continuously saying, wow, cool, amazing. So I'm just gonna stop saying these things. I don't have any sort of like qualitative type of thing that I could do for this other than you guys actually seeing sort of the vibration in the camera. There is a lot of stabilization happening with the GoPros. They're really good at that. But, I mean, you'll have to take my word for it. And there's really, I don't think there's any specific thing that I could do, you know, outside of the car, like shifting and all that sort of stuff to be able to be like, this is a very obvious difference and here's how I can show you that difference, other than just saying it aloud. But there is a difference. There is a very noticeable difference. I'm really excited to spend a little bit more time with these mounts and really getting a feel for it. Next, I'm going to be doing the transmission mount from Damond Motorsports, which looks really good, and hopefully it feels even better once it's in the car. This next one is not technically a motor mount, it is the transmission mount, and I got it from Damond Motorsports. Well, I didn't. I got it from somebody online, but they got it from Damond Motorsports, and it looks fantastic. It is effectively brand new. It is in incredible shape, and I'm very excited about this. So, this is it, and then some random bolt that he wrote on here that it's really important, so we're not going to throw that away at all. I also got extra hardware for the other mounts, but I just reused the old stuff, so throw that away. By that I mean I'm going to throw it in a bin full of random bolts, and then one day maybe I'll need it. So this one's going to be a little bit tricky. Let me go ahead and flip you around here. It's under the battery, which means we have to pull the battery out. Which I never like to do, because if you pull the battery out, then it's annoying when, you know, you go to put everything back together and your car ECU is reset and it doesn't know any of the really hot temperatures outside when it's 95 degrees and you see your knock retard go up to like 4, 5, 8 because it's hot. Anyways, so we're going to get the battery pulled out, which is super easy. I'm not going to show it to you because if you can't get a battery out and you're replacing your motor or your transmission mount, you probably shouldn't be replacing a transmission mount. Just saying. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the battery. I'm going to pull the ECU as well, and then we're going to have to take the battery box itself out, which I believe it's 3, it might be 2, 10mm bolts that are underneath the battery. Not very difficult, but I'm going to get all of that pulled out. If you want to know how to do it, then, I don't know, drop a comment down below, and then I'll make another video for you. I am sure there's plenty out there on the internet, and previous videos that I have on my channel, I've showed you how to take that out. So I'm not going to bother boring you with that, because that's not the focus of this episode, or this video, whatever. So I'm going to pull that out. We're going to look at the old motor mount, see how to take it out. It should just be 5 bolts, and then, actually it might be 6, because I think there's a bracket that's like screwed into it that we have to undo as well. But anyways, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get the old one, whatever. Let's do it. There's some sweetness. So I got the battery box out. Really, really easy. It takes like 5 minutes. The worst part is like trying to angle it up and out that way. But there's our passenger motor mount. Sorry, transmission mount. My bad. Now, before I start unbolting this, I guess I'll just show you this since we're already here. So there are 6 bolts. You have a 10mm right here. I don't know if I have to take this one off. It might be 7. And these are just going to this little support bracket for the wire harness. But we have 2 here. There's 2 underneath the wiring harness right here, the positive cable going to the car power, or the car inside of the car, and then the other one for the alternator. and then we have the single one in the center right here. I will get those sizes for you in a minute. So it would seem that the only socket we need is a 17 millimeter. So I did a little bit more work over here. I'm really gonna need to scrub this off and give it a little coat of rust reformer or something. Oh, this is cool, the little shift linkages. Anyways, so I ended up pulling the air box out, which is really easy because you have a 10 mil right here and then a 10 mil that connects to here. The reason I pulled that out is because these little rubber boots right here are, the air box is sitting inside of them. It's got these little, feet pegs right there. And so in order to pull that out, which this was on top of that, like that, I needed to get the air box out. So I pulled that really easy. And I'm actually going to put in some effort to scrub this down and kind of de-rust it a little bit. But would you look at that? Look at that disgusting thing. It's so gross and horrific to look at, and I hate everything about it. It actually doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look like crazy cracked and destroyed. But that compared to that, pretty awesome. I'm excited. So I'm being big old dumb. I'm sitting here looking at this thing, thinking to myself, now how the hell does that go on to that? Because this very much looks like this. You know what I mean? But this plate obviously cannot like set down inside of the engine because there's a mount in the way and that. But I'm stupid. So we have to actually pull this mounting bracket off of the transmission itself. So we have 1, 2, and 3 bolts right here. This one, I don't really know how I'm going to get to that, but I guess we'll find that out in a minute. I believe those ones are also 17 mil. Let us see. They are indeed still 17 millimeter. Good. I'm glad everything's 17. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. I don't know how I'm going to get that one. I suppose it's all a journey. But yeah, so I'll pull that off. And then, like I said, I'm going to clean up the area in there a little bit with a wire wheel or a wire brush. And then I'll probably throw down some rust reformer. I'm trying to slowly get rid of some of the rust, you know, so that I can minimize the amount of rot that this car is going through. It was a northern car for a little bit. So next step, I've got the I threw the mount in here. I got the bolt and the 2 nuts thrown on. I do actually have to take this off though in order to get to those last ones. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this mounting plate off. It's just this bolt right here, which yours hopefully is already apart, so you don't have to worry about that. So before you put that big plate on, make sure that you put the rest of it into the transmission, and those are going to be torqued down to 50 foot-pounds. So let me do that. I did end up moving this shift linkage out of the way, so I'm going to have to move that back too. So I'm going to torque this one down first so I can put the shift linkage back, and then I'll get the rest of them torqued down, and then we'll move on to the next step. I ended up actually undoing these 2 bolts anyways, because this little mounting bracket for your shift levers was very much in the way for getting this bolt out. But now that it's out, I've torqued those down to 50 foot-pounds, so we're going to go ahead and get the top plate thrown back in, and that cross bolt thrown in. I'll put the shift plate, whatever you want to call that, not shift plate, but the thing. I want to put the thing back, and then we'll torque down these 4 bolts, but I got to look at the torque spec for that. I've got the plate back in, and then the battery box mounting plate on top of that. Those 4 bolts, you're going to go ahead and torque them down to 40 foot-pounds, 40. And then I'm going to put the battery in the ECU and plug all that in before I put the intake back, just because it makes it a little bit easier. That's pretty much the install. I'm going to go ahead and button the car all up together because it's really hot and the sun is destroying me right now. And then I'll see you guys once it's all back together and we're going for a test drive. Oh boy. Oh man, I am clean finally and in a new shirt. And is this connected? Mostly. So we're going to go for a quick drive. We have the new transmission mount in from Damond Motorsports. Oh boy. There is some vibrating with that. That's okay. Oh man. Wow. Well, you can feel that. Well, I knew I was going to feel a lot of vibrations, but let's see what it does on the road, shall we? I'm going to shut my garage door. I'm going to be gone for a minute. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, those vibrations really go away as soon as you're above like 1,000 RPM. It must be some sort of like a resonance. I will say I don't really expect to notice much of a difference. When I put the passenger motor mount on, I noticed a lot of difference with the shifting. It feels so much better. So I don't know if I was gonna, I wasn't sure if I'm gonna feel anything different with the transmission mounts. But you can definitely hear the car more. You can hear the engine, because that vibration and that, you know, well, vibration from the engine is being transferred more to the frame. So I can feel it more in the steering wheel, and I can feel it more in the pedals. And then of course I can hear it more in the cab. Oh man, there's like a nice little whine as well that I can hear more now. That's really cool. I love being able to hear the engine, because then it lets me know when something is wrong. Alright. I would say it's stiffer. That is going to take some getting used to. Alright, I stand corrected. It is definitely stiffer. There is definitely more feedback having that stiffer mount on the transmission. Oh, transmission mount. That whine is the gears. I always hear it when I'm in first gear slowing down, but now I can hear it a little bit more on the regular. Oh, this is so cool. Sick. Well, there you have it. The transmission mount install. It was relatively easy. It took a little bit more time than the other two did. Probably the equal amount of time to both of the other ones combined, just because I had to do a little bit of rust prevention and treatment, but that's totally fine. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, then please come back and see me again. Always trying to do new things on the Speed. I got a massive list of upgrades, and you're gonna have the sun on you. I have a massive list of upgrades, and I'm very excited to give them a go. What's going on, my dudes? James here from the desk in the future, wearing a different shirt with a haircut. But, and I got a little bit of a head cold, so I'm sorry if I sound weird. I didn't do an outro because originally I made each of these motor mounts as like individual videos, and then I thought it was a good idea for those out there that are doing upgrades just continuously on their Mazda. You're probably going to be doing all three motor mounts at the same time, and so it would be good to have a video out there that had all three of them just put together. One thing I wanted to talk about was why these mounts really are better than the factory mounts. The stock mounts are great. They function just fine, and they do what they're supposed to do. They probably wear out a bit faster because they are softer, therefore are able to be worn down faster than, you know, something that might have a little bit more rigidity to it. And on top of that, the stock mounts being softer are a lot quieter, which is probably why when Mazda was creating a street car, not a race car, they used the materials that they used in the stock mounts that they did. You know, having hydraulic oil inside of their passenger motor mount, having a very soft rubber composition or compound for their rear motor mount and their transmission mounts. It just makes it for a quieter and less vibraty ride. Now with that, you're going to have more engine shifting, so the engine is going to be moving a lot more in the engine bay.
The other thing that these mounts that I installed help with, and I don't think it particularly matters what brand you go with. They're all going to be made relatively similarly because it's still a mount for Mazdaspeed 3. The only thing they can really change, other than the physical like color and the design like shape, which is all cosmetic, is the compound that they use for the mounts themselves. So the COBB rear motor mount is a fully polyurethane mount, as are the two Damond Motorsports mounts, the transmission and passenger motor mounts that I installed. Those are fully polyurethane. Other companies use something that's a little bit more of a mixture between some sort of a vinyl rubber and polyurethane that'll make for a little bit more of a quiet ride or a less vibrating ride while still giving you the rigidity, but you're going to probably pay a little bit more for it. So it's really up to what you want. The nice thing about doing fully polyurethane mounts, and mine are not the stiffest that I can get, so they're kind of like the intermediate, they're the street level. They do have a race level mount for both of these companies. But the big thing is, and you'll notice a huge difference when you install these on your Mazda, is that the shifting, as I mentioned, becomes so much smoother because your transmission, which is mounted to the engine, it's a transaxle, it's not a transmission, but your transmission transaxle is mounted to the engine. So as the engine shifts when you're giving it gas and letting off the gas, your transmission is shifting, which means that all of the linkages, all of the drivetrain parts, everything are not like in the same position they were in. So when you go to put it in gear and let the clutch out, there's a lot of slack that needs to get picked up, which leads to like jerky motions and that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to hurt your car as long as you're not slamming on it like an asshole. But putting in stiffer mounts means that you have less motion out of all of those components, which means that you are going to be picking up a lot more of that slack in the mount rather than in the drivetrain. So when you go to let the clutch out after putting it in gear, you're going to have a much smoother shift. There's going to be a lot less motion out of the car, which makes it just more comfortable and smooth. And these mounts 100% do that. The other thing, I haven't really tested this a whole lot yet, but whenever I and was using the old mounts, and I would do like a 0 to 60 pull, and I'd put it in first gear and I'd just dump the clutch. I would spin the wheels a little bit, and you get kind of like a wheel hop where you as the car is moving forward. So going with a stiffer mount and preventing less motion in the drivetrain will also reduce that wheel hop, which will improve your 0 to 60 times, which is crazy. But I will say that it was incredibly noticeable how much faster this car is with these new mounts. My 0 to 60 with the stock mounts, I was really only able to get down to about 11 or 12 seconds, which is really bad. Once again, I'm not a professional. I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't do this all the time. It's just on an odd occasion when I'm on a road that allows me to go 60 miles an hour, I'll stop when there's no traffic, and then I'll send it. But doing the same thing with these new upgraded mounts in it, I got my 0 to 60 on the first pull down to 8 seconds, which was insane. So that's a 3 to 4 second drop in a 0 to 60, which is a lot. So I'm sure there's more conditions that had to do with that, but a lot of that is the mounts. So I cannot recommend these enough. Once again, the brand doesn't necessarily matter, but going with a stiffer compound for these mounts is super important for the, I guess, tunability of your car. And on top of that, longevity of the mounts too, because if they're flexing less, then they're not going to be wearing down as much, as I mentioned before when I was talking about the softer compounds. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. There's a lot that goes into this and a lot of things that I really don't understand because I'm not a professional. I just read things online and then believe them because the internet never lies. And then I put things in my car and I play around with it and I see that the internet never lies. So I hope you guys have enjoyed or learned something from this video. If you did, then please follow along because this journey will continue, honestly, for years because things are expensive. But I have huge plans for this car. Be looking forward to the next couple of videos. I get the fuel pump swapped. I get the stage 1 tune thrown on from my COBB access port. And I start seeing some pretty crazy differences in the performance of this car. And it's a ton of fun. I'm really enjoying this. So I hope you guys are too. And with that, I'll see you next time. Don't forget to live from dusk till dawn, my dudes. Catch you later.